Well, hey guys, right before we actually start the real speed build, I just want to take a moment to pause and kind of thank you guys. So, I don't think I would have gotten this key unless if a lot of you guys went into that post on the forums where Frontier asked like all the community's favorite content creators were, and I was extremely overwhelmed with how many of you guys said me, and it just really does mean a lot to me that you guys would go out of your way to do that. I don't think I would be here doing this stuff if it weren't for you guys. So I just wanted to say thank you before we start this really awesome build. So with that being said, I just want to thank Frontier for the key once again, and I want to thank all of you guys for constantly supporting me over the past year. It's been a wild ride, and you know what? Tiergarten Wilhelmsdorf is going to be one of my favorite parks. So thank you guys so much. I know this was, a little bit sappy, but yeah, let's get started with the speed build. Well, damn, Leaf, don't get all sappy on us already. Well, no, with that being said, welcome everyone to our first speed build of Tiergarten Wilhelmsdorf. As always, my name is Leaf Productions, and it is so wonderful to have all you guys here. New faces, old faces, even if you don't have a face, welcome, because we're getting into some really awesome stuff with the European pack. Now, with that being said, again, another huge thank you to Frontier for providing the key and early access for me. It was so unexpected. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys. Now, what are we making today? Yes, so we should probably talk about the habitat and like the whole idea and the theming and everything that went into this, because it was really fun to kind of figure out how to make this work. So one of the things I really want to implement in here is a little bit more of a fairy tale theme. Yeah, so I was really inspired by Francesca's story, and by the way, we dedicate this little garden to her. But I was really inspired by it because it was such a huge, awesome marketing tactic that Frontier and the CMs should really take more often, because I was swooning over that story and like the entire story of Lumia and everything. I really want to have this little bit of a fairy tale theme throughout the entire zoo. Nothing really too crazy. The whole idea for Tiergarten Wilhelmsdorf is to have a European inspired zoo, very much set in the Black Forest of Germany, right outside of Wilhelmsdorf, the actual town. That's why we're basing it like right on a nice beautiful lake. If you guys don't know, Wilhelmsdorf is kind of like on the outskirts of a lake. But with that being said, we're working on the actual holding facility for the Lynx to begin with. Now over here, I really want to hide the holding facility within a relatively not hyper themed area, but definitely one that takes in a lot from fairy tale inspiration. And you guys may notice there is a little bit of a bridge in the back, and there is just like this big jutting pillar right in the middle of the map. I did record speed builds for those, but it really wasn't too interesting. I don't think you guys would have liked to have seen that. So we're just jumping right in here with the habitat. I promise we're gonna get into like the whole infrastructure later down the line once the news does start to like die down and stuff, but I really just want to hop in here and start making as many habitats as possible with you guys. And the Lynx was number one on my list. It is such a beautiful creature. Frontier has knocked it completely out of the park with this one in particular. I even think it's a little bit better than the cougar, if I do say so myself. So that is really awesome to see. They just keep on doing amazing work. But the whole idea behind this entire build was have this little bit of a fairy tale cottage, kind of like, Snow White's cottage was my main inspiration for that. That's why we use like this thatch. I think I actually opt to use the, I think it's a South America thatch. I think I will change that later down the line because I'm starting to like the brightness of the African thatch a lot more, so we will go back and like fix that all up on like second glance. But with that being said, here's essentially the whole look of the thing. It's nothing too crazy. It's your typical Tudor kind of style cottage in the middle of a forest, and we have a beautiful little garden right next to it for all the kids and guests to kind of like pop in, maybe pick some plants out, and maybe there's like educational programs that the kids can go on that where they're like, feeding the animals exactly like food from the garden and whatnot. Maybe that's something we can integrate, but we'll see all that later down the line. It was just really fun to do this kind of architectural style because I don't build European. You guys know how I build. I build very postmodern, and like semi-modern American builds. That's pretty much it. But I don't know, it was just really fun to take a little step out of the comfort zone for once, especially with a build like this. And I have to say, if you guys don't have the Arctic pack, I need to recommend it now that we have it alongside the European pack. They both go extremely well, hand in hand, and it really is an amazing thing to have. And these decals, oh my gosh, these guys are perfect for all that small decorating that you can never really do unless if you were like an absolute freak and used art pieces. I'm looking at you, Just Goron. But with that being said, we do a lot of awesome stuff here as well. I do the basic outline for the path in here, so it is traversable by guests, so they can pop in here and work on their garden and whatnot. They could, you know, pick some food for the ibexes. By the way, the next episode will be the ibex, so do keep an eye out for that. But just generally keeping this whole garden idea kind of flowing nicely, because it is very much inspired off of fairy tales and the like. One of the things I actually did cut out of the speed build was me recreating the sign of Lumi, like the one that the art director, I do apologize, I forget your name once again, but I kind of recreated it inside a Planet Zoo with font pieces. I know I was just ripping on myself about using art pieces, but you know what, it's totally fine. But I essentially recreated that, and we will continue that style out through the entire zoo for all of the other 5 European animals. And definitely do let me know if you guys want me to use modded European animals in here. I know Nick and I just released a ton. I know Narwhaler has a ton. I know Goboy and Jorno have worked on a ton as well. So definitely do let me know if that is something you guys would like to see, or if you want this base game. Listen, I am completely at the whim of you guys. But with that being said, we just finished up our cottage, and we're actually starting on the actual habitat itself. I really wanted to challenge myself to make this a little bit smaller than I really would build it for, because I tend to build big for a lot of different animals, even if they don't really require it. It's something that I'm trying to kick, and I just want to be real with you guys. It's okay to try and, like, you know, fall back in old habits and stuff when it comes to your building exhibits, because hey, that's your style. Ain't no one stealing that, you know? So one of the things that you do need to keep in mind when you're building for lynxes is that they can climb, and they can climb extremely well. They are some very agile predators in the wild. So making sure to put in some climb-proof fencing is something that is, I would say, empirical when it comes to a situation like this. Making sure that you're able to build so that you're preventing them to climb out is very essential. And that's something that we actually do get into later down the line. I have a couple different ways for you to kind of prevent animals from climbing out in this exhibit alone. I have both a moat, I have the climb-proof fences, and I have integrated rock work, and we can see that all come into play very, very soon. But here we are actually working on the pathing. Most of this kind of gets nixed because I do raise the guest elevation a little bit more, because I wanted to account for a dry moat and have an unobstructed view of the Lynx. I felt like that was going to be a very important thing to include in this exhibit, just because I want it to look good from the guest perspective. And of course, when you're building in Planet Zoo, some people build extremely realistic with mesh everywhere, but I wanted to challenge myself to build a little bit more creatively, so incorporating a little bit of a moat was something that I really wanted to accomplish in here. And I also do a little bit of a river running right through it. If you guys aren't familiar with my techniques, I usually use rapids as a way to signify running water. And I also use a combination of rocks as well to give it a little bit more of a kind of fake looking vibe. I know I like to do a lot of naturalistic builds in here, but always incorporating a little bit of realism in here never hurts anyone. And having this kind of pseudo fake rock kind of texture, it always does help to bring builds from looking, hey, that's in Planet Zoo, to, oh damn, maybe that's a real picture. Who the hell knows? But with that being said, here we actually use some of these new habitat items. So these I geeked out over. I'm pretty sure you guys remember me saying those like earlier this day, I'm sure. But these new bridges are going to be so useful, not only for European builds, but I can already see them being used for like tree houses. I can see them being used for a variety of different things, and I'm so excited to see what you guys at home are going to make with all of this. Definitely do show me all of your builds. Guys, listen, I love seeing what you guys build with this pack. I am so excited to see what comes out of it, and I hope you guys are having a blast with it as well. Now, with that being said, here I am just going through and trying to do different things. Of course, in line with the story, Lumi played the trumpet. So, of course, I had to make my own version of Lumi's trumpet, and I think I did a pretty damn good job at making a small art piece trumpet. It was very useful with these new pieces as well. These were such a blast to work with. I think these are actually new metal pieces. I don't know what they're actually from, but I know they're going to be extremely useful if you build on much more smaller scale, kind of like I do. I love doing stuff that is very minimal, very small, and getting all these small details in here always works out. And so with that being said, we actually give this trumpet a little bit of a center stage right there, right on top of the building itself, of the holding facility. And I even sneak it back over here in this tiny little cave. This entire viewing gallery is kind of inspired off of a cave, but we do kind of sneak the trumpet in there along with the Lynx sign to kind of give tribute to the wonderful CMs who really helped to make this pack launch really, really fun. And guys, please go give them all the love possible, because they keep on making this more and more fun. With all the animal reveals, with everything, with the pack reveals, it's really a wonderful community now. And this is everything I've ever wanted. Like, I don't know, it just makes me really happy. Now, with that being said, I kind of even out that corner of the climb-proof fence, because it does come out to like a T-junction, I guess. And then here we go, reworking the path. So I have that center stage, right, that info board right there, center stage, so you can look at that right into the exhibit. And I do a little bit of a custom fence here as well. Nothing too crazy, I'm just using those North African log pieces. They work exceptionally well for stuff like this, and they are so beautiful when it comes to like decoration and stuff, so it just makes me really happy. Just all these useful pieces as of late have been really, really awesome. So I've been digging those recently, and it's really, really great to use. Just carrying that throughout the entire exhibit, and we do kind of make this a twofold kind of barrier, because we don't want the guests climbing into the Lynx exhibit. That would be extremely bad. Lynxes are very dangerous creatures when it comes to humans. I know they're very small, they're very cute, they're very fluffy, but listen, even if you have a household cat, those things are scary right there. Imagine what a wild one would do to you. So we kind of block the guests off from jumping into the exhibit by incorporating that ditch, as we said before, as well as a little bit of a planter bed. So, you know, they kind of get deterred off of that, just so they don't jump into the actual planter bed and exhibit themselves. But you can kind of see that it is elevated just a smidge off the ground. So the viewing over here, when you're looking at the habitat dead on, it is exceptionally well, and you can see pretty much all the facets. But what happens if you don't really want to see it from there? Well, we have this other viewing gallery as well. I usually love to do multiple viewing galleries per exhibit, just because it really does help to show off just the intricacies of exhibit design, and I always find that very, very interesting to go on about. But here I'm working on a little bit more of the waterfalls, making sure that it does flow nicely, huh? Get it? You see? Waterfall, water flow, hey! But with that being said, working on the rest of that mesh over there, making sure it's nice and even. And then here we are, popping back in here. What are we doing? We are adding some faux rocks to the rest of the river. This is something I really want to do as well. It just gives it a little bit more detail. Just always helps to flesh it out. And here we go, working on the garden. Fran's garden, yes. So I really want to integrate a lot more agriculture in here. If you guys have been longtime fans of Leaf Productions, you know I've had my fair share of farms. I know you, the real ones, may remember Leaf's Animal Farm. That was a while ago, damn. But over here, I really want to implement a lot more of the new pieces, especially the grapevines. Oh my gosh, this was a little bit of a welcome addition, having some more like plants and fruits. That's always great to see, so that made me really happy. But I'm using this one off the workshop. I do apologize, I don't have the name written down, but if you just rewind a little bit back in the video, you should be able to see who actually made these wonderful, wonderful crops that I start to use, and we put this ibex statue right front and center on top of a beautiful, beautiful fountain piece, which are flexi color now. Can we talk about that? Like, the entire limestone set is flexi color. That goes for the statues as well. Listen, I told you guys back when we were going through all the news, listen, we're gonna get new flexi color limestone. You guys were like, ah, no, Leaf, it's already flexi color. Nope, they are all flexi color now, and it's really, really awesome to have that, because it's such a unique texture of a piece that having it be able to be flexi color really does help to flesh out your builds so much more. Now, speaking of fleshing stuff out, these new plants, oh my gosh, the periwinkle in particular. It is such a beautiful, detailed, small, low-bearing piece that it may be very well on the level of drin grass, if I do say so myself. It's going to be that useful, and being able to integrate that within our forest builds is going to be so great. I was just wondering, where the hell was this piece when I was working on Sugar Pine, am I right? But with that being said, here we actually go, adding the Lynx to the habitat itself. There's our little Lumi right in there, so we get to see it traverse the exhibit really nicely. And these new bushes as well, I think it's the dogwood bush, if I remember correctly. I don't know, dog something. But it's really, really helpful when it comes to fleshing out those areas. And we even do a little bit of a backstage implement as well. So we do have this little bit of a trash pile by yours truly, whoever just got placed on that pallet right there. Believe me, you're not trash in my heart, but you are in my zoo. That's my little honoring to little system over there. I think we will integrate a little bit better way to honor blueprints as well later down the line, especially with the new memorial walls. Those are going to be really, really insane to use as well. But just going through the rest of the garden, adding this little bit of a rock trim to give it just a little bit more depth, because the mulch alone, it really didn't settle well with me. And kind of blocking the mulch off from the rest of the exhibit really does help to go a long, long way. So just getting the rest of that done and making this garden, I know it may seem a little bit cramped in here, but you know what? This low traffic area, you would definitely see guests start to traverse on much smaller paths when it comes to these kinds of areas. Most of the time, they would typically hang out on the main path. This would be only for like small families and children and whatnot, so yeah, that's pretty much my excuse right there. And I gotta give a shout out to Wiser. Oh my gosh, one of my buddies from back in the day. He was the one who made the Spectacle Cayman, if you guys remember that. But he also made this beautiful, beautiful font set. And it goes perfectly with the entire European theme that we have going on in here. So I start to integrate Fran's garden sign right in here. I'm not sure what to call this entire fairy tale area over here, because I do split up my builds. We're just going to connect the dots later down the line. We're just throwing stuff at the dartboard and seeing what sticks and where it sticks. So we'll get there soon enough. But I just really fell in love with this sign. It looks really nice, and we hide it pretty nicely with the rest of the new foliage that we got. These beautiful, beautiful pieces. Oh my gosh. It came out exceptionally well, and these new cork oak trees really do help to sell it as well. And we kind of make the rest of the area pretty forested back there. Again, I did say that this is based in the Black Forest area of Germany, so I definitely do want to integrate as much wildlife and as much forest as we possibly can going forward. And I thought we needed a little bit more of a splash of color, so I do implement some of those Cordelia plants from the South America DLC. Hope you guys can forgive me. It's not really the most realistic, because they probably wouldn't survive in a climate like this, but hey, what can you do? Also going back here and adding some more rock work. This is again one of the things I mentioned before, just having smart rock work to prevent animals from climbing out is always a really good thing to have. And we do dress this up later down the line with a little bit more foliage on top, so it feels a lot more integrated within the environment that this is nestled in. So you can probably see me working on a few more things in here. Again, I like to lay down a layer of mulch just because I wouldn't be able to manipulate the terrain to actually come up all the way up here. So instead, I kind of opt to use mulch pieces instead. They're beautiful. Also, we got a beautiful new mulch piece that we'll be using in the next episode. It fits perfectly in this tiny little planter that Frontier was so generous to give us. So that's going to be really awesome for smaller habitats as well, especially in applied terrariums and stuff, so that's going to be insane to have. Now moving through the rest of this, you guys pretty much understand my shtick at this point. I very much attribute myself to be the Bob Ross of Planet Zoo because I paint with my foliage. Of course, I start off with a low-bearing plant, be it the periwinkles, be it the arrowwood in this case, be it the drengrass, and then I work myself up in size. So I start to use a bit more bigger pieces like those beautiful bushes that we got, and then I start to use trees, and then it really does help to give a little bit more of a planted vibe when you're making exhibits like this. It really does help to pay off. Also over here, just making sure that our lynxes aren't able to escape because they were swimming down there for some reason. Not sure as to why they would go down there, but we actually do fix that up with some barriers later down the line just as a way to prevent them from actually going up where they're not supposed to. That's something that I don't want them to do at all. But here we actually work on this little bit of a viewing area. So I really want to integrate this one within the rockwork as much as possible. You may see that I'm using some repeating patterns, but I do kind of fix that up later down the line with a lot more rocks. I just throw stuff on top of each other and it does help it even out so much better later down the line. It looks beautiful, and I do cover up that little piece of the fence right there. Again, that's a little trick that I want to mention out to my buddy Just Goron. You take a null barrier, you place it down once, and then you drag the actual column of the other fence onto it, and you get this beautiful separation between the fences, and it comes out extremely well in the end. It looks amazing. Now with that being said, we are adding some of the rest of the foliage around here, adding some vines, adding some stuff kind of like that, just as a way to make this feel a lot more integrated within nature, make sure it feels a lot more like a fairy tale, because when you think of fairy tales and fairy tale themed exhibits, you would definitely see a lot more of an emphasis on nature, because fairy tales did originate from nature stories and stuff like that. You definitely see that a lot with animals as well. I know Planet Zoo just tweeted out recently that the badger was integrated within a lot of fairy tales in the past, so it's really awesome just to see Frontier hammer in on that and get a lot more of an emphasis on fairy tales. It's really great to see. Now here we are actually working on the real exhibit itself. Yes, I know it only took 20 minutes, but we're finally doing exhibit foliage, so you know, that's basically how I work. I do apologize if you're looking for some, like, you know, stuff where you jump right into the exhibits, but I hope you guys can forgive me on that. It was still really fun to figure out the foliage palette that I wanted for this entire park, because coming from Sugar Pine, it was a little bit more of a mint green kind of palette. I guess you could kind of say it kind of rounded out to mint green and orange. This one I'm going for pretty much dark and like darker and brighter greens, a lot more saturated, if that makes sense, and probably some purple and reds later down the line. I'm not sure what we'll actually start to integrate, maybe some whites as well, but just having this beautiful Black Forest vibe come out, it is starting to look very cool. And we'll get some mist emitters pretty soon, so we could get this beautiful overlay of the mist on the mountaintops and whatnot. I think it'll come out extremely well in the end, and I hope you guys are as excited of this project as I am. Oh my gosh, I love this game so much. Now, with that being said, we're just continuing our palette throughout this entire area, using the bracken, using those beautiful new pieces, just as a ways to kind of make this feel a lot more naturalistic. That's definitely like my style to build in. Faux with a little bit of naturalism in there. It always feels so good to put together in the end. But adding some of those kind of broken logs to prevent the lynxes from climbing out, as well as adding a few more guest areas with those benches and stuff and the bins. It really does come out pretty well, and I do have a little bit of a backstage in there. Nothing too crazy. Listen, if you guys want crazy backstage, go to my buddy Leader, go to my buddy Zoofluencer, they got you covered. But listen, when you come to me, you get the theming, alright? You guys know what you sign up for. Now with that being said, we're actually working on some climbing frames for the lynxes, because as I said before, lynxes are very arboreal, which means they do tend to spend a lot of time up in the sky, up in the trees, not in the sky. They can't fly, but they can climb. They can climb extremely well. And so integrating as much climbing as possible in this exhibit was something that I really, really want to hammer down on. And these new pieces as well, these natural climbing beds or whatever they called them, they are perfect. They look insanely well too. And I think a lot of people will get a lot of mileage out of these, especially for interiors. They are perfect for like these kind of even East Asian kind of style builds. Indonesian, they look beautiful for that. They remind me a lot of like the lighter patterns that, you know, people in Indonesia tend to use as well. So that's going to be really cool. But for our purposes, in our little fairy tale section, they serve as nice little baskets. So there, it's the best way to integrate them right there. And I do use the North African rope pieces to kind of keep this one suspended up here. If you guys do want this as a blueprint, definitely do let me know. Listen, I'll blueprint literally anything you guys want in here. Just hit me up and I'll release them in like sections. Hopefully I can get like a nice big section by the time that, you know, I get back home from vacation and whatnot. But look at all of this come together. I love the climbing structures, and we have one going right over the river as well. So it's just proving to be a different way for the Lynxes to really traverse. And we also do a custom bridge in here as well. Listen, Frontier, listen, I appreciate you guys giving me a beautiful new bridge, but listen, that's not going to stop me from building my own damn bridge, okay? Listen, this was really fun to put together, and all of these colors working together really does help to serve this looking so beautiful. It really helps the climbing frames stand out, and once the Lynxes are actually on there, they stand out even more. So just building all of that in there was really, really fun to accomplish, and dressing up the rest of this habitat as well, just adding my beautiful little layers of paint, just really helps to take this into the next level. Now, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. We're about to enter the B-roll, but I do want to thank you guys. I know the European pack wasn't really number one on everyone's list, but definitely do check it out if you guys are interested. It's on Steam right now. I'll have the link to the Steam page right down below. Even if you're not going to buy it, definitely be sure to wishlist it so you guys will know when it goes on sale. And yeah, with that being said, we are going to enter the B-roll right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you guys, and if you guys are new here, always welcome to the leaf pile. I always love seeing new faces out there. If you guys are interested, definitely do hit the subscribe button right down below so you don't miss a beat with any of the leafy goodness. But with that being said, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, and have the most wonderful of wonderful days. Bye-bye now.